G'day, gorgeous. You're listening to episode 5 of the G'day, Gorgeous podcast that empowers women for life. Today's topic, the secret to living your happiest life. So this empowering podcast is created by me, Amanda Jane Clarkson, best-selling author, inspirational speaker, entrepreneur, wealth and lifestyle coach for women globally. And if you're a woman who craves more from life, you want more certainty, more clarity and more confidence, like most of us, to create and live your dream life by design, not default, nor desperation, then this is the podcast that will absolutely help you go from feeling frustrated in any area of life to feeling fabulous, successful, and more prosperous in these 7 areas that we will be talking about: love, health, relationships, money, your vocation, which is your job, career, or business, happiness, and personal growth. And I can absolutely promise you that this podcast is going to be raw, real, and very relatable, as it's based on real life experiences, life lessons, and most importantly, results. And I'm going to be delving into the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So be sure to have your journal. I always have my journal because words don't teach, but writing does. A nice cuppa, whatever that looks like for you. I always like to have a little cup of tea with me and be ready to take down your inspiring aha learnings and inspirations from a story I'm going to share with you that I believe you will relate to in so many ways. And all that I ask of you right now is just to have an open mind, open heart, and come with me on this adventure by putting yourself in my shoes and seeing how your life experiences and your results relate. And I'm sure they will in many ways, gorgeous, because I believe that I have walked hundreds, if not thousands of miles in your shoes in some form or another on my quest for living my life by design. So, getting into it today, the secret to living your happiest life. When I learned that my luck in life was all about me and that I needed to stop looking on the outside of myself, hoping, wishing and praying, blaming others, justifying for where I'd turned up in my life, I made a decision right then and there on the spot that I was going to work harder on myself for the rest of my life than my job, career, or business, no matter what. Because I made a decision sitting in this classroom as I was learning to become a personal trainer that I wanted to know the secrets of living my best life. I wanted to know the secrets of how I could create my life by design instead of taking what came at me each and every day, living with conformity, other people's ideas, other people's ideals, and, being poked and prodded and pushed around because of my desire or my want to be popular, to feel like I fitted in. But at the end of the day, what I realized is that to fit in wasn't necessarily my path, wasn't necessarily right for me. And I decided that I wanted to go on a journey of what I call self-discovery and self-empowerment so that I could become more clear, I could become more confident, I could become more certain, and I could begin to create the life that I'd always dreamed of since I was a very young kid. And, maybe like you, and I want you to put yourself in my shoes, I had big dreams. Do you have big dreams as well? And I'd been dreaming these dreams since I was a little kid. But, in my heart, I knew that I had limited understanding. I knew in my heart that I had limited knowledge and that I would never really achieve those dreams that I had since I was a kid unless I did something about it and unless I started to make some changes. And instead of wanting everybody else to make the changes, I realized in that moment that I was the one that needed to make the changes. And, my dream since I was a young kid, and I want you to think about what your dream has been or was. I don't even know if you still have it anymore. Have you squashed your dream down so small and put it in a little box and you don't even think about it anymore? I mean, where are you on this grand journey that we call life? Are you moving towards your dreams, or perhaps like me, you didn't have the knowledge, you didn't have the clarity, you didn't have the certainty, certainly not the confidence to even know how to create your life by design. And now perhaps like I was, you too may have the knowing of what it feels like to try and fit in with other people's plans, other people's ideas, but it's not you. Now, my dream since I was a young kid was just freedom. Freedom meant so many different things to me at the time. It meant living life on my own terms, being able to make my own decisions, find my own way in life, have different jobs and careers and, see what I was made of. And yet I didn't have the tools in my toolbox. I don't know if you've listened to any of my previous podcasts, but I did share that I literally failed everything at school, everything except 2 subjects, religion and art. Religion, maybe because my dad's sister was a nun at the Catholic school that I went to, that helped. And art, because my dad was very artistic, very, very good with creating things with his hands, and he would help me. And so I knew even in my gut back then that I probably would have failed those 2 subjects at school as well. I was told by some of my teachers that I was dumb, I would amount to nothing, and, I needed to concentrate, I needed to try harder. And those were the beliefs that I left school with, thinking that, well, geez, Amanda, you're pretty dumb. They've told you you're not going to amount to much. So, your life is not going to be that exciting. But somehow I knew I had this feeling in my gut all the time. I always had this little, a burning desire to see the world, burning desire to see what I was made of and how far I could go. But I did know that I needed to make some changes. And so the very first thing I did when I had that epiphany, I'll call that my first epiphany in my life. And thinking about your life, how many epiphanies have you had? I mean, have you had any realizations of, oh my, if I want something different, then maybe instead of looking on the outside of myself, I need to have a good look in the mirror. I need to ask myself, am I knowledgeable in what I want to achieve? Do I have enough tools in my toolbox? And am I just spending my life, spending my days hoping and wishing and praying that I had a different outcome, but not doing anything different to achieve a different outcome, if that makes sense? I call that, all the keys to turning yourself insane. You've got to make sure that if you want a different outcome, you've got to ask yourself, what am I doing day in, day out that's getting me this result? And I was smart enough, at least back then, to go, I need to start reading something different. And even back then, even though I didn't really know where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, even though I was in my 30s, I was still so unclear. I was still riddled, with self-doubt. I had days where I just looked in the mirror and I did not like the person that was staring back at me. I felt insecure. I still had issues around not fitting in, not wanting to be like everybody else. I didn't want to go and get a job. I didn't want to get married and have children at a young age. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's perfect for you, that's fabulous. However, for me, it wasn't so fabulous. And I used to get told by people that there was something wrong with me because I didn't want to get married and have children at a young age. And so that put self-doubt in my mind. That made me think that there was something wrong with me. And so what I did is I started to invest the little money that I had, because I didn't have a lot of money back then, into books. I thought to myself, well, my mentor likes Tony Robbins, so I'm going to invest in some books. One of the very first things I did was invest in some cassettes. This is right back in the year 1997. We invested in books and cassettes to start to learn different things that we didn't know then. And I was absolutely blown away. And instantly, I started to feel differently. Instantly, I started to realize that I could be who I wanted to be. I could learn different things. I could grow my mind and change my life, change my destiny, as Tony Robbins would say. And some of the mentors back then, because as I said, I didn't have a lot of money. We bought some books and some cassettes back then because that was all that was available. I listened to mentors like Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, Napoleon Hill, Dr. John D. Martini, Abraham Hicks, learning the law of attraction, Earl Nightingale, Robert Kiyosaki, Bob Proctor, Zig Ziglar, Oprah, John Assaraf, James Allen, just to name a few, Michael Gerber, and many, many others who helped expand my mind, opened my mind to new ideas and new possibilities. And so thinking about your life, if you are feeling frustrated in any way, shape or form in any of those 7 areas, as I said, the 7 areas that we talk about is love, health, relationships, money, your vocation, personal growth, and happiness. Where in those 7 areas of your life do you feel frustrated? Do you feel lack of confidence, not enough, like you're missing something, but you can't quite grasp what it is? And I get that because I understand how I felt at the time. And so reading these books, listening to these cassettes, I started to open my mind to new possibility. And I'll share a really quick funny story with you. Back in those days when we used to listen to just cassettes and we only had books, I was a runner, and every day I'd get out of bed, and I live on the sunny Gold Coast in Queensland in Australia. I'm not sure where you're tuning in from, but this is where I live, and I live right near the beach. In those days, I actually lived right on the sand. I lived in an apartment that was right on the sand, and it was a beautiful apartment that we rented. And every day I would wake up and I'd get my magic outfit on. And I know I've spoken about my magic outfit in a previous podcast. And my magic outfit was my running gear. And it put me in a different frame of mind. It made me feel like getting out and doing some exercise. And so each and every day I would get out of bed, put my magic clothes on, get my Sunny Walkman cassette player and pop one of Tony's cassettes in it, Tony Robbins. And I would start running along the beach. And I used to run maybe 6 to 8 miles every day. I really do love running and it makes me feel really good. Anyway, so I'd start to listen to these cassettes, and over time my mind started to open up, new ideas, new possibilities, and I would start to feel a little bit more confident about who I was. I began to realize that I was the answer. I was the lucky break, and the more I learned, the more I could open my mind, use my imagination to visualize what could be possible. And it was so funny because the more Tony got wound up and excited about what he was teaching, the faster I seemed to run. And every day I would hope that I would learn something brand new that I've never heard before. And it's a funny story. I believe Tony Robbins used to have an apartment here on the Gold Coast. I believe it was many years ago. And I would literally run miles and miles on the beach towards where I believed he had an apartment here. This is going back quite a few years now. And I would hope and pray that I would run into him just to say thank you. Just to say thank you for opening my mind, helping me discover who I was, helping me find more self-belief in myself, and helping me understand the power in self-empowerment, the power in taking care of myself, and then learning how to create the life that I so wanted. And he was just one of my many, many mentors. And, fast forward many, many years to today, I still invest in many mentors. I listen to lots of podcasts. I listen to YouTube videos and watch them. And, I spend more time working on my mindset every day than I do in my business. Back then, the job I had or the career. And, I urge you to do the same. I urge you to invest in yourself because you are so worth it. And this is what I want you to think about now. Thinking about your life. What commitments have you made? What investments have you made in yourself? And how do you feel about investing into your education? One thing I learned from one of my mentors that literally, I think, cemented the value of personal empowerment for me and learning to become more empowered in every area of my life so that I had more control in my life was something that I heard from Jim Rohn. And he said this, you can write this down in your journal. Formal education can earn you a living. Self-education can make you a fortune. And the way I took that was that you can have a far more fortunate lifestyle, a fortunate life where you can be the very best version of who you are. And the more you invest into you, it's who you become that makes all the difference. And they're the things that I started to learn from many of my mentors. You see, this journey wasn't about what I was going to get. This journey was about who I was going to become as a woman. So to bridge the gap of where I was in my 30s, realizing that I was the lucky break, realizing that I was the answer to my problems, learning to change my thought processes, learning to change some of the old habits of thought and ways that I spoke and the ways that I acted to have a different outcome was so empowering for me. And that is why I was so dedicated and committed. And that's the question that you can ask yourself. Are you dedicated, or have you been committed to making small changes in your life before? Or is this something brand new for you? Are you just learning to discover what's possible in your life? And this is why I'm so passionate, I guess you could use that word, but I'm so inspired to get this message out to other women because I know what it feels like to sit there wondering what happened, sit there wondering if I'd missed the bus of life, wondering if my time was ever going to show up. Girlfriend, if you're listening to this, then I don't believe your time is ever going to show up until you're ready for it. Until you know who you are, become more empowered and go on a journey of self-discovery. And, I don't know where you're beginning. I don't know where you've been, but here's what I do know. Here's what I do know. Spit it out, Amanda. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter your age, your background, your education, because I look at my life now and it is so different than what it was back then. But I can also say to you that I know my life would not be what it is today if I hadn't become the woman that I needed to be to create all of the dreams that I have, to live the dreams that I have, and to inspire and impact others along the way. Because this is the thing that gets me out of bed every day, is thinking about how I can impact others, how I can inspire others, empower others just like you. Because I truly believe that everything and anything is possible if you put your mind to it. And I once couldn't see the light. I once didn't believe it could be possible for me to get the freedom that I so hungered for since I was a young kid. but it is possible. And I absolutely believe in each and every one of you, especially you. If you're listening to this and I'm looking you in the eye there, girlfriend, I truly believe in you. Probably more than you do right now, but I do understand. I do understand what it's like to not feel worthy, not feel special, not feel important, however you are. And you have your own unique gifts and talents. And this is another thing I learned from one of my mentors, my dear mentors who I study with still today. I've done all of his courses, and his name is Dr. John DeMartini. You may have heard of him. I have done all of his courses, and I love his teachings, his philosophies. And the thing that I picked up from him that really had a massive impact in my life is that we all have our own unique values. We all have our own talents, and we all have our own message to take to the world. And what is right for you is right for you. You don't have to try and fit in with others. You don't have to try and live with conformity. You've got to discover who you are as a woman. Where are your gifts? Where are your talents? And what would you love to do with the rest of your life? And when I started to learn all these different things from my many mentors, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself now because I do get a little bit excited along the way. As I said a moment ago, everything is possible. And I'm just taking a moment now to have a look at my notes because I don't want to miss out on any vital bits and pieces I want to share with you today. So let's now take a moment to write down some of your fabulous aha inspirations and life success lessons that I've learned along the way from this time in my life. When I was 33 years of age, my first epiphany that my luck was within me. That was the epiphany, to stop looking on the outside, take responsibility, to learn about myself, to give myself the gift of time, energy, love, understanding, and fill myself with brand new knowledge, fill myself with inspiration so that I could go out there and create a different life that I was searching for. And so the first lesson I would say is you too are the lucky break. Stop blaming, justifying, and complaining. That's what I needed to do. And all you can do is ask yourself the question, Amanda's journey, Amanda's story, how is my life similar to that? What stories is Amanda sharing with us that I can relate to? And that's my question for you. Are you relating to what I'm saying now? This is very real. It's very raw because it's my real story. And over time on these podcasts, you will see that I'm going to start interviewing other people that have real stories as well, have walked the journey before you or beside you, and that believe in you as well. But today, as we're just rolling into our podcast, here's what I would say. This is what I was told from one of my mentors. Unless you are growing, you are dying. Personal empowerment is one of my most empowering live now life success principles that I teach. It is so vitally important. I have discovered to take care of self before you can take care of anything and anybody else. If you want to realize your amazing dreams, that is, and your full potential, because you deserve it. The second thing that I would want to share with you today is what I realized is what you think about mostly you start to bring about. So commit to learning how to understand yourself, take more control of your self-talk, the toxic self-talk that goes on that we all have. And that's a whole nother session coming up soon, more toxic talk stuff, so that you can become empowered in every area of your life. And I know many mentors out there will say, just focus on one area of your life. I get that. However, I do love talking about the 7 areas of life because they are so intertwined. Everything is connected. And so, yes, you can start focusing on just one area of your life. However, just looking at the 7 areas, where would you love to go from feeling frustrated to feeling fabulous, to feeling more successful, to feeling more prosperous. Think about that, because it is all possible. Whatever life you want to live is absolutely possible. The next thing I would say, I've already done the second thing, this is the third thing. Invest into mentors. Nobody gets to the top of their mountain alone. So who are the mentors that you love learning from? Invest in people who have walked the journey before you, that can take you by the hand, can guide you, can lead you, can show you the way. Those who have empathy and get it. And that was one of the massive, massive lessons that I had to understand along my journey, is stop asking advice from people who didn't have a result that I was looking for. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I was making along my journey. Looking at my friends, looking at my family, looking at others, my community, to get the answers, even though they didn't really have the answers I was seeking. And that was another thing that I had to learn, is to invest in myself, feel worthy enough that I was worth a book. I was worth a cassette back in those days. I was worth a podcast. I was worth a mentor who could guide me, shine the light on me. And still today, I invest heavily into mentors. We all have so far to go. This journey of life never ends. Well, it ends in the physical realm, but this is a journey that we continue to go on. And I love the idea of continual growth and expansion. And so I am a big advocate of investing into mentors, whoever they are for you. Remember, gorgeous, you are your best asset. And I love this quote. I can't remember where I got it from, but I'm going to share it. Your life is like a bank. I want you to write this down. Your life is like a bank. What you invest is all that you can withdraw. And so ask yourself this question. I want you to think about this for a moment. Where along your life, in each of the 7 areas that I've spoken about, where in your life have you made investments, intelligent investments into your growth, into understanding, so that you can start to have more confidence, you can gain more clarity and certainty? Or you may be beginning right at the very start, like I was. And that's okay too, because where you are right now, if you're listening to this podcast, it is no mistake. It is perfect where you are right now. Today may be the very first day of a brand new chapter, a brand new beginning. And I remember right back then how thrilled I felt in my stomach. I had butterflies like you wouldn't believe, because I was just so looking forward to what was about to unfold, looking forward to all of the amazing things that I was going to learn along the way. And so the next message that I want to share with you, think about what makes your heart sing. What would you love to spend your life doing? Where would you love to invest your money? Who would you love to surround yourself with, learn from, spend time with, talk to, and ask questions to? That's what I used to think about all the time. Who can I learn from? And that's why I'm so into investing into my own mentors, going to seminars, learning from people who have more wisdom than me, because I believe, we are so worth it. Decide, girlfriend, commit, and take action. They're the things that really changed my life from feeling small, from feeling worthless, to feeling confused, I guess, is that I made a decision, I made a commitment, and then third, I took massive action. I hope you're taking notes in your journal. That's why I always say make sure you've got a cup of tea, you're going to need it, and your journal to take some notes. These notes are important, and you can go back and over time look at the journey that's unfolded for you. Look at the distance that you've traveled and recognize the growth that you're having, and maybe even a transformation. Because remember, this G'day Gorgeous podcast is for empowering women for life. And you can go back and read your notes. Because here's the thing. When you get clear, when you get real clear on what you want in life and why you want it, opportunity will be abundant. And I'll be talking about more about opportunity, where it comes from in future podcasts. However, the message I want to say now is that only you know what's right for you. And until you stop trying to fit into other people's expectations, live other people's hopes and dreams, unless they are intrinsically right for you, you are going to feel frustrated, because that used to be me. I was a round peg trying to fit into a square hole, or vice versa, however the saying goes, whatever. Or a square box trying to fit into a round hole. You know what I'm trying to get at. It just wasn't right for me. And the day that I really felt free, the day that I felt light, I felt more energetic, more excited about my future, was the day I realized that if it was going to be, it was up to me. And so I'm going to be delving so much more into these hot topics that I'm speaking about in future podcasts. So I truly hope you stick with me on this journey. This is a journey of transformation. This is a journey of self-empowerment and discovering who you are and all that you can be. One life, no regrets is what I love saying. So I would love to say now, thank you for listening in. And if you have loved this episode and know of somebody else just like you who would love to go from feeling frustrated to fabulous and successful and even more prosperous in all or 7 areas of life, including love, health, relationships, money, vocation, happiness, and personal growth, then please let them know to subscribe to the Gday Gorgeous podcast that empowers women for life. It would truly mean the world to me if you would help me create what I love to call the butterfly effect, by sharing this important, impactful message to as many listeners as we can together. You see, it's my life's work and my mission to reach, teach, inspire, empower, and impact as many women globally as we can, and show them the way, show them they can be all they want to be. So please, if you liked what you heard and found value in this lesson today, I would be super grateful if you would take just 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review and share this empowering podcast with your girlfriends. And to find out more of what I do, I would love you to visit me at my website, www.gdaygorgeous.com. So thanks again for joining me on the Gday Gorgeous podcast that does empower women for life. And until next time, gorgeous, be bold, be courageous, and be fabulous. Bye for now.